All right, good evening, Oregon. It is Monday, March 9th. We are here at 6:30 in the Oregon School District Innovation Center at the Oregon High School. This is our regular meeting of the Oregon School District Board of Education. Katie, could you please call the roll for us?
Ms. Bijak? Here. Dr. Bush? Ms. Garrison?
He's here.
Mr. Hensel? Dr. Lakuta? Ms. Wright? Here. Mr. Pankratz?
Here. There are 6 of us in the room, and I understand Dr. Lakuta will be calling in about 10 minutes, joining us by phone tonight. I do have proof of notice here. Thank you, Katie, as always, that our meeting has been properly noticed. Our agenda for the evening, typical items are action items. We have 4 tonight. We'll be talking about the 2026-2027 recommendation for school staffing, a follow-up from our last meeting. And then we have the 2026-2027 capital maintenance projects. We will cover policy 611, which is financial, and then we will discuss the HRA benefit for eligible employees. Additionally, we do have a closed session item tonight, and that is discussions regarding negotiating the SRO agreement for the 2026-2028 school years pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851E. So I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as posted.
So moved.
Motion by Anna, second by Nathan. We'll call the roll on that. Katie?
Ms. Bijak? Yes. Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. We have an agenda. All right, so first up is our consent calendar. Let's take a motion to approve the consent calendar as posted.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Motion by Anna, second by Heather. Is there any discussion? I should ask if anyone would like to have anything removed from the consent calendar. All right, if not, I would like to thank our generous thank our generous individuals who have donated. So we have a $498 donation from the Friends of the Orchestra for buses. We have a $4,397 donation from the Oregon Athletic Boosters for general athletic support. We have Elena Schinderly with a $15 food service donation, Rachel Glaza with a $50 food service donation. We have a $50 donation from the Oregon Brooklyn Optimist Club, which is a donation for ComEd for Oregon Games. One Community Bank has donated $501 for the robotics team sponsorship. And then we have several generous district office staff who have donated for the annual A-Team scholarship. So Anna Seidenstricker donated $100, Channing Liska $50, Dr. Leslie Bergstrom, Gina Jonan, Carrie Majeski, John Tanner, Chrissy Mittling, Shannon Anderson, Brittany Spencer Grant, and Katie Heitz all have donated $100. So we thank all of our community members and staff members who continue to support our district. I will also call your attention, there are 2 field trip requests in the consent packet as well. So is there any further discussion? If not, Katie, please call the roll.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. All right, we will now move on to informational items. We'll start with our superintendent's report on student highlights. Dr. Bergstrom.
Well, thank you. We have some very fun things to report. Congratulations to Maya Jadhav and Aislinn Kavan, who have been named National Merit Finalists. Finalists, everybody. Your hard work and dedication have paid off, and we're very proud of you. Also want to put the spotlight, Youth Apprenticeship Spotlight, on Olivia Howard. She's a nursing assistant at UW Health. as a nursing assistant, Olivia takes patients' vital signs, measures blood glucose levels, helps with daily living activities. And Olivia is focused on ensuring that patients stay comfortable at the hospital and are able to continue doing some of the basic routines that they do at home. So courses that helped Olivia prepare for this capstone experience include biology, anatomy and physiology, CNA, AP psychology, and chemistry. Olivia also has earned her basic life support and first aid and CNA certifications. So, way to go, Olivia. And now you also have Jada. She is our second spotlight, and she's also a nursing assistant, and she works at Beehive. So courses that helped Jada for this capstone experience include medical terminology, chemistry, AP psychology, biology, introduction to healthcare occupations. Jada's also earned a CNA certificate. So these are very impressive placements for our young people. So sophomores and juniors, this is the perfect time to investigate youth apprenticeship options. Contact your counselor or Ms. D'Amelio, our school to career coordinator, to discuss what you can do.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? We don't have anyone registered. Anyone here for public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. No report from the OEA tonight, which brings us to our student report. So tonight we have our MSAN group, the Multicultural Student Achievement Network group, sharing some information with us. So I invite you all up to the front of the room here and look forward to hearing your report.
As they are assembling, this is a wonderful group who attended the MSAN National Conference this fall in November with Ms. Lopez, Mr. Weaver, and Mr. Pliner. And so they're here today with a report on what they brought back to our school after having that really incredible experience.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having us today. We really appreciate it. My name's Gavin Smith. We're going to go around and introduce ourselves and say our favorite thing about MSAN. So you already described MSAN a little bit, did my job for me there. I really appreciate that. Also, one thing that I really enjoyed about MSAN was being around people that look like me and are like me. I don't think I've ever felt at home. One thing that I take away from MSAN is from Trey M. Baker, who we'll talk about more. He's a spoken word poet. He really appreciated my honesty and my vulnerability, and that's one thing that I learned from that.
So I'm JD Barra, and something that my favorite thing about MSAN was seeing how much that we're so alike at different schools. Not even like here in Oregon, there's so many other districts, in other states that are just like us, and I really liked seeing like everybody come together.
And then my name's Alondra Espinosa Brito. I'm a senior here, and I really liked the experience. I enjoyed it because I got to like network with other adults like Trey Baker, and as well as like other students from other states. And we also visited like the college over there, Howard University. So we're also gonna talk about that. But yeah, so it was good to like just experience a different culture, especially from like being a student of color here, and it was like pretty good. So.
Hi, I'm Zach Intim, and I'm also a senior. My favorite thing about MSAN was how I got to see a bunch of different perspectives from different students in different school districts and how they dealt with problems in their school district and also some solutions that they brought to their school district.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Levi Guzman. What I liked about MSAN is I saw what someone was doing at another school, and there was Wanakee was like a really like, I see what you're doing, I want to do that here. And so that was my big takeaway when I went to MSAN. Thank you for paying for that.
My name's Samara Lewis. My favorite thing about MSAN was probably like the speakers they brought in, and I kind of liked how we like had so much in common with other schools, even though like our schools are very different. We still like kind of have the same issues, and like kind of our stories were kind of alike.
So a big thing about MSAN that we learned was building bridges. That's why we titled that. Me personally, I'm a very social person. I like to go out, talk to people, and that's something that was great about MSAN. Even though they're from 30 different states, you're still able to connect with them on some sort of basis, like everybody said here, and we really appreciated that. So that's the big thing about building connections. Me personally, I connected really well with Middleton, so they're going to be coming with us to a lot of stuff, and we're going to be helping each other out back and forth, so that's something we took away from there. Before I get into my slide a little bit more, one thing I want to say in overview is we're doing an event later. We don't know the date for sure, but it's just going to be a multicultural event where all of us come together and celebrate, and we learn things from each other. It's more informational, though. We're going to be having likes of guest speakers coming to talk to the youth especially and stuff like that, so we're really grateful for that. Empowerment and educate. So like I said, we want to inform. Inform and educate are very different but very similar in many ways. One big thing about me is I like to be able to inform others as well as educate them. And I think having guest speakers and stuff like that come in and talk to our, especially youth, because it's hard to talk to adults a lot of the time because they're very fixed mindseted. But if you can implant stuff into youth and show them that there's availability out there and perspectives out there, it helps them a lot. So, and providing a sense of community. Because in Oregon, the diversity rates have gone up for sure, but they're still low compared to other schools like La Follette or West and stuff like that. So just showing that there is that sense of community around you, there's people that look like you, talk like you, and act like you, then having that little community, even though it's a small community, it's very impactful.
So students of color often like feel unheard and like isolated in a predominantly white school. We do have more diversity, like over the coming years there have been more students of color who have come to the school, but there are still like gaps, like GPAs and just students doing well, truancy, things like that. A lot of like those statistics come from students of color, which is sad. So I feel like we need to make student voices like more heard or like feel more important, and like inclusive spaces, things like that.
Okay, and then how this team, like our project, aligns with MSAN's mission. So it relates to each other by the fact like how, like Samara said, with our like AP scores or grades, GPA, ACT. Tomorrow's the ACT. Good luck with everyone. But but yeah, so I feel like just we looked over the statistics. Thank you, Dr. Hunter, for that packet. And we looked over it. We saw most of the percentage was like people of color. So as our mission, we really want to change that fact. And like maybe you guys aren't like in the school physically, but I do like most of the teachers can also relate, or principals can also relate how they see people of color, like students of color, just roaming around the hallways. We want to change that because that just like impacts our learning. Like we want to put like increase those like grades and stuff. And so our target to empower students of color and strengthen the district's equity, well, yeah, to support strengthening our color. So.
Our next steps. So our next steps are to plan and host a community event. We want to build the connection between the OSD school district, and we want to invite active speakers who can students who can relate to, as in people like who look like me, because I wouldn't want to see a Caucasian person say, oh, you should do this and this will improve your community, when they have nothing to say. They have no experience of what I'm experiencing. So our event would be something that everyone can relate to and that might empower our students and might make them want to attend classes and strive to be better.
And then how we will monitor our progress with everything is actually talking to our students, talking to them, seeing like their perspective, because also like we as a group, we do work together and everything, but also we're doing it for them. So we want their perspective too, to see what we need to improve, what they dislike, what they like, everything like that. And also talking to our staff, especially to see what we're doing right and communicating with them to see what we can grow and what we can fix. And then also like talking to you guys, our community, to see like if we should like tweak something or do something better, to see like, because it's also their students, it's also their community.
So we want this to be an annual effort. We don't just want this to be a one and done thing. And we are hoping that with us striving for us to have this an annual effort, that every year this will bring our community closer together, and kids of color will also be able to feel more of a sense of belonging within our community. We want to inspire future leaders to continue this event along with the people that are already in the high school, but also the children that are coming into the high school and through the lower grades. And we want to advocate for unity and equity.
One thing I want to add to that too is especially inspiring leaders, because us three are going to be gone next year, and we're probably some of the most active members within our groups. So showing the younger generation, especially the incoming freshmen and stuff like that, mainly at the high school, showing them that there are groups that have stuff like this and are able to go out and do these events and showcase their abilities, I think is a big part of that.
All right, so this is my poem that I wrote. It's called I Want Change. Like we said before, we met with many amazing speakers at our MSAN conference. One of those names, which we've mentioned, Trey Baker. He was absolutely phenomenal to us. He actually encouraged us, everyone at the conference, to write these poems. And for me, I am not a poet at all, but I found it really easy to put pen to paper and actually express my feelings about something because I was actually passionate about it. I realized. But without further ado, here's my poem, I Want Change. I want change, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to speak the words that live unspoken in my mind. I can start. Where can I go from here? How can I make the path to change clear? If I say what I mean and mean what I say, will that... How can I act? The road ahead is so rough. I want change, but I don't know where to start. However, I must find a way. Stand by and watch the world fall into disarray.
Would you like to perhaps read it on the screen? Because it's coming back.
I could
Okay,
do that
thank
for
you.
I can't see that far, but I'll go over here.
Or right here too. Yeah, right in here, it's right.
It's a treat. You guys get a live performance.
He charges.
All right. So, I want change, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to speak the words that live unspoken in my mind. I can only feel the feelings in my heart. Where can I go from here? How can I make the path to change clear? If I say what I mean and mean what I say, will that be enough? How can I act tough when the road ahead is so rough? I want change, but I don't know where to start. However, I must find a way. It simply cannot be okay to stand by and watch the world fall into disarray. Thank you.
Once again, I want to thank everybody for listening in today. We really appreciate you guys. Wonderful poem written by Zach. But Trey Baker was very inspirational to all of us, and we've mentioned his name. Dr. Gloria as well was another name that was mentioned that was really powerful to us. But I just want to say MSAN was a great experience for all of us. I don't think I've ever had anything like it. Coming back was really weird because I was surrounded by people that all looked like me, and I walked into Culver's here in Oregon, and it was a completely different environment. One thing that we didn't talk about much was Howard. I wanted to mention being able to tour a HBCU when there's not many around here whatsoever was incredible for being a black student here at Oregon. Seeing some culture that is completely different than Wisconsin in general was impactful to me. That's just one thing I just wanted to share. Anybody have any questions?
Remind me where the MSAN conference was held that you just.
It was held in Alexandria in Washington,
Okay.
D.C.,
Okay.
Virginia. But yeah.
And was that a month ago or more?
So we left in November,
Okay.
and we got back in November too. But
Okay.
but yeah, it was during mid-November.
And how long were you there?
We were there for 4 days, 5 days, 4 to 5 days. Yeah.
It's really interesting that you connected with other Wisconsin schools. Hearing about the Wanakee experience, that's pretty awesome.
So thank you all for coming here tonight and being brave enough to stand up here in front of us and talk to a room full of adults that you don't even know and who don't look like you. And I guess with that bravery, I'm just curious, have you thought about what you need from the adults in the school or from the school board that would help you to promote what you're trying to do?
I would say yes and no at the same time. Because obviously we're still in the works of figuring out dates, still in the works of figuring out costs and stuff like that. But from the staff, we just want promotion. And from you guys especially too, is promotion. Showing people out there this is an event in Oregon, it's open to the Oregon community and more. And just showing that we are doing something good here at Oregon, I think is a big part of it. Also, when it comes to funding and stuff like that, obviously it's different for everything, but some sort of donations is always welcome to anybody. Obviously, we got to figure out money-wise and dates and stuff like that before any of that comes up. But, yeah.
We mostly need your trust, though. We need your trust that you guys need to believe in us that this will be a successful event, and this is going to improve your Oregon School District, and this will empower every colored student. You won't see people like me walking around the halls not doing anything. They're going to be in class. Grades will improve. I assure you that. AP World, more students are going to apply. More students are going to just be excited to go to school and just strive to be better. But we need your trust. Everyone needs your trust.
Well, I just want to say thank you all for joining us tonight. Really enjoyed what you had to say, and I really want to give you a heartfelt thank you for your leadership in our school district. Really can see how positive all of you are, and love that you've talked about inspiration for the next the next group of students who are coming up, and I can really tell how much you've invested into this program and wanting to see it continue and to improve the district. So a big thank you. Really appreciate it and appreciate your positivity. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into our action items. We'll start with C1, and that is our 2026-2027 recommendation for school staffing. Gina?
That is a really hard act to follow, to talk about staffing. So that was amazing. All right, so we are seeking tonight for the board to approve the positions in Table A, Section 3, which starts on page 5. We talked a little bit about this last meeting, but these are critical positions to meet the needs of our students. So we would be looking for a school psychologist in early childhood, a 1.0 FTE, a special education assistant at the K4 level to assist with specialized vision services, along with an increase in contracted staff for that same need. Increasing our 0.4 speech language pathologist to a 1.0. And that total would be roughly $237,500. Of course, that's assuming a middle salary hire with a single plan. But that's just based on best estimates of who we've hired in the past. And then we, on Table B, have a watch list. We are still working on health insurance. We did get some preliminary information hot off the press today, and we just had a health insurance committee, and they worked through some recommendations. So I will be putting together a report to share with the board and also staff. Depending on the board's preference, it might give us some funding flexibility, so that's something that we can talk about. The one difference from our meeting last time is that we are closely watching our elementary section sizes. And so just want to put on the watch list, possibly needing one, if not two, elementary teachers. Right now, we're one student or so over in a few of the sections. We would not add for that. And we also don't know move outs yet. But spring is a time that people purchase houses and move. So we are closely watching that. And we will do that well into summer. So wanted to just, we try to stay within class guidelines. We do explain that they are guidelines. And so we just really look at when do our sections get to the point that we feel we need to add another section and add a teacher, and then we have the students to pay for that ideally. So just want you to know that we are watching that, because that has been a concern raised by our registrar and our elementary principals. But otherwise, I'm happy to answer questions. Just looking for a motion to approve the positions in Table A based on our legal requirements to meet our students' needs.
Questions from board members?
No question. So I was actually going to make the motion to say that I don't have any questions, given last meeting's great discussion on the topic, and that this has not changed, which I asked both Andy and Gina before the meeting. So I'll put a motion on the table. If somebody wants to put a second, then we can certainly go to questions if helpful.
Okay, so we'll look for a second, and then we'll go to discussion. Second by Dr. Bush. Mary, you can proceed with your question.
Thank you. So, and I think this question is really for Andy. I know the recommendation on the table includes essentially deficit spending, right? There's a $36,004 shortage. And last time we talked about, you felt very confident that that shortage would essentially go away because most of the projections are extremely conservative. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. I would say two things have changed since that time. One is the legislature did go home. So while there's still a chance that things may improve on the special education side of things, that idea has cooled off a little bit. The second thing that's changed is we did just get kind of a counter proposal from our insurance company that would save us some funds, as Ms. Jonan mentioned just a minute ago. So I think there's definitely a path forward where we can make up that small difference in our revenues to expenses for this next year. So the recommendation is to basically, we would reallocate those funds if we can't find that money, but I think for the most part, we're going to find that.
Okay, thank you. I have a few just comments as well. So I know that the 0.25 FTE vocal educator has been a request since 2022. I'm also aware that it does not actually require a new hire, but actually just additional allocation to current educators. And over the last year and a half, I mean, we've heard from so many community members asking for this 0.25 FTE vocal position to be brought into the school. And, we as a board talk a lot about our gratitude for our community and the fact that, that in 2022 the referendum passed, and we have been in such a much better place than many of our neighboring school districts. But I fear that to not include the 0.25 FTE vocal educator after so much continuous community support, and after hearing from so very many community members, would really be a failure on our part, on the part of the board, a failure to listen to our community and be responsive to their needs and their requests. So that's my comment on the current proposed item.
Okay. All right. Other comments, questions? Heather?
Yep, and I apologize because I was not at the last meeting, so I know that there have been lengthy discussions, not only at the last meeting, but leading up to this. And I guess I just wanted to inquire about the associate principal, you know, the potential transition from admin intern to associate principal, and just from a perspective of, you know, we are in an odd space with K through 6 and K through 4s and intermediary and middle school and high school. And I think the district as a whole has always looked at having a very equitable experience, no matter if you're in a K through 4 building and a 5-6 building and a K through 6 building. So I also wanted to just, you know, I don't for one second think we have extra funds just laying around, because it's not a one-time money thing, it's a continuation. So I totally understand the financial ramifications and the parameters that we're up against, but that's something that, in addition to, I mean, they're on your watch list, but I just wanted to say out loud from an experience across the district that one especially jumped out to me.
Yeah, I guess I would say that I share similar thoughts as Mary on the importance of, I guess I was really, really hoping that we would have had numbers that were going to allow the .25 vocal music OMS to become a priority for this next year. So when I saw that it wasn't added to the table A, I was disappointed, because I do want to see that become a reality for all of the reasons that have been discussed, as far as providing enhanced vocal music education for our middle school and 5th and 6th grade students. So I'm strongly supportive of that. At the same time, I'm recognizing, as Mary put it, that we are right now talking about a deficit budget. And so there is not an opportunity or the luxury for us to be able to make those decisions right now. I do want to express my support for that, should funding become available. I also don't want to hold up the hiring process for, excuse me, for these positions, because as we've talked about, now is the time when we want to try and recruit the best candidates for these, and so I don't want to hold up that process. Excuse me. But I would strongly want to see that vocal music position be able to be a reality. So, but I support Table A.
Let's go to Leslie, Caleb, and then back to Heather.
Andy, excuse me, I've had, wow. The shortage, the deficit, the $36,004. If we're unable to identify that, where would we be reallocating that from?
Well, as I said before, this is kind of big picture early on. We will do multiple, basically salary advancements, estimates. As we start hiring people, we'll start looking at all those different things. So there will be a lot of shuffling between now and August when we do the preliminary budget. So like I said, I feel comfortable that we're going to be able to take care of that. I guess if push came to shove and you said I had to cut from someplace, I'd probably, we have what's called a capital projects fund, not capital maintenance, that Zane's going to talk about momentarily, but capital projects. we would probably have to take some from there. That is what we use to replace copiers, replace vehicles, replace musical instruments when people ask for me to do that. It's kind of a fund that is available mid-year that we don't assign all the dollars right away at the beginning. And as things come in during the year, we're able to address it through that. So that would probably be where I'd have to take the money from if there's no other options.
Thank you, Andy. I just wanted to make sure that there was like a thought process in case the funds don't show up like we're hoping for. And if the funds do and we have extra, I also would highly support the additional FTE on vocal music. I feel like a large part of our community has wanted that for a long time, and I think that we need to do the best to support our community. Now, also what Heather has said, the equity in the what's it called? I can't think. Associate principal position is important as well. So those would be my top two thought processes if we are able to find additional dollars.
So first of all, I will say, I guess I will just agree with my board colleagues about the additional 0.25 for the vocal instruction in the middle school. Because there is interest and need at the student level, I think that's an important position to consider if we do come across some extra funds. I think I'm in agreement with my colleagues there. I think it would also be great too if we have an instructor at the middle school who is currently 0.75 and wants to go up to full time or the 1.0 FTE. I think it would be good for that instructor as well. So there's, I think, multiple benefits there. I just wanted to also say that looking at Table B, in terms of the positions on the watch list, there's a whole bunch of really good things there. It's kind of tough to look at that list and see that we have some needs that we currently aren't able to meet. And I guess I wanted to just kind of chime in here and say what we seem to say almost every meeting, that it would really be nice if we had full funding for special education, that instead of what we have right now with the some certain funding coming in much less than what was predicted, because then we would have perhaps a little bit more money that we could use for instructional purposes. But currently, as it stands, because of the way that the legislature funds special education, this is a recurring annual problem where we have to take a significant portion of the general fund budget and use that to cover special education costs, because that's also a critical area of instruction in the schools, and we have to make sure that we're doing that. I had a question on top of all of that commentary, which I guess is, needing the potential to need a K-4 elementary teacher or two seems like maybe a good problem to have, because that would indicate that we have growing enrollment. My question is, if it turns out we do need one or maybe two, and each position has an estimated cost of $85,000, as I understand it, where do we find that money? Is there a sense that like some of it will be covered by the addition? Well, I guess it would take a couple of years for that to show up in the number of students in our district. So I guess my question goes, I was going to answer my own question, but I think I did. So I guess my question stands, right? If it turns out we need one or two elementary school teachers, and given the fact that we're already incredibly tight on the budget and looking at right now $36,000 that we'd have to identify elsewhere, what do we do if we need those one or two positions? Because I think the other thing we need to be conscious of is to make sure that our class sizes are staying where we want them to. That's my question.
So we have kind of projected from an enrollment perspective, kind of status quo moving up. So first graders become second graders, and that has an impact because over the 3-year average, so you're correct, it takes a while for the increase to hit us. That we're kind of in the middle, an average increase type of perspective is if we start having growth, yes, it takes a time to get that, because it's a 3-year average for it to roll in, but we do get 1/3 of that increase. And right now, I would say we're not anticipating that. So if the growth is there, then that 1/3 at least be there, and we'll be able to fund some additional positions. The difficult part from my perspective is I don't know that until the end of September. And last I checked, school starts at the beginning of September. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there in our world. So I think we'll continue to monitor this as we get into summer. As Gina said, it's on the watch list. So if we need to move, then at least we have the comfort of knowing that, okay, there's going to be some additional revenue too, because that wasn't anticipated.
Heather?
Caleb said what I was going to say, so thank you, Caleb, for that. But I wanted to take it a step further and actually run some numbers just so that we can remind ourselves what we're talking about. So I think I remember 5 or 8, like if we were fully funded for special education, we would have a 5 or 8 is the number, $1 million.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're talking at least that.
Right.
If we just can get to the 45%.
That's what I was going to ask.
I got a lot of numbers in my head, but I think we're talking around 700,000.
Right. And so this is what I wanted to say out loud was we're not even talking about in some dream state being fully funded, right? Wouldn't that be a boon to have millions to work with? But if we were at the 45% that was originally discussed, 700,000, and quick math, we're all doing it in front of us, the positions that are on the watch list are 287,000. So I just want to bring that number. You started it, and I just wanted to bring that home with the number because that really matters. That we're talking about these positions are a done deal, and there's additional, financial support that we could be using for the school district. So for the 19 people watching, that is an important number, and hope everybody watches it after that.
Nathan?
Yeah, so maybe just a couple quick comments. So I made the motion because I thought it was playing off of Gina saying we were approving Table A. And we had a lot of discussion last meeting, and I did not realize the conversation around Table B was going to be brought forward by my colleagues. Great that we did. So I'm always happy to have that and hear those great perspectives and all salient points. Couple points from my perspective. One, anecdotally, just because I couldn't help myself here, 0.042% is what we're talking about, the $36,000 delta on an $85 million budget. I trust you all with it.
Right.
On the notion of trust, what's our overall governing process on the administration side for either bringing back to the board positions in B, or do you all have discretion of that after that? And I probably should have known that before I made the motion, but now that we're talking about the rest of these, I do think, do you bring them back or do you not? Because I often hear that we are approving and hiring positions that don't come to the board, and now we're micromanaging over things that are $36,000 and $28,000 a piece. Which is it? I'm having a hard time keeping this straight in this construct.
If we were planning to hire for what was in Chart B, we would come back to you.
Just even one of them or all of them?
You're not approving them tonight according to your motion, so we
Correct.
would come back for any of them.
Okay, all right. I'm just getting a little gyration on the process and what we're doing because the approval of this and all the right reasons for it doesn't line up with the fiscal year, so I know and trust how all that stuff works, or at least to the best of my ability. So appreciate the help to just understand and support what we're really all here to do. So thank you for that.
Yeah, so Nathan, what typically would happen is if the health insurance bids come in lower than we thought, we've got extra money, then the team would bring those open positions.
And that was my assumption as well, but when we were kind of starting to position for positions this evening, I was like, wait a minute, am I misunderstanding how I thought this worked? So I was questioning my own logic on it, so that's helpful context. I appreciate that, thank you.
We could we could choose to overextend ourselves tonight, but that would put ourselves at risk to, because the insurance contract could come above where we think it is, where we think it's planned. So, any other comments, questions? Gina, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just add that our thinking as a team is that because we don't have the money available for the positions right now, that we're only asking the board to approve the positions we need to meet our legal requirements.
Correct, and that's what I heard and thought
Right.
was exactly the intent. So we're aligned there for sure, Yeah, thank you.
And then what I would look at is that we do have some health insurance options, and so we would work through that as a team to bring you a proposal and have you work through it as a board. Because often with health insurance changes, there comes some things that staff need to take on that is a lot of education, right? And so not atypical, then sometimes there's a request for higher wages if you're making health insurance changes. And so just having to sort through all of those conversations. So that's why we're starting here with this is what we feel we need to meet the legal requirements we're obligated to make to our students. And then if we do have additional funding available, then we would come to you with options, if that's helpful.
Very much so. Thank you so much.
Great, and I want to weigh in on table B. Some needs here, and it's unfortunate that we can't approve these tonight. But I do want to comment on the associate principal at FES. That is something that has been a need for some time, and I would say that need has been growing. It's a school that is not operating as we designed it. It's a K-6, and that has, that just presents some challenges with the variation in the ages and the grade levels there. And I think we've been managing okay up until this point, but as enrollment continues to climb there, I don't think the current setup is a long-term solution. So I'm showing support for that associate principal position if that would shake out in the future. So. With that, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve Table A, positions in Table A. Katie, could you please call the roll for that motion?
Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
I'm sorry, I feel that not including the .25 vocal teacher is no pun intended, but tone deaf, to ignore, something that's been so clearly articulated by so many of our community members on enough.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-1. Thank you for the staffing plan. All right, next up we have the 2026-2027 capital maintenance project. I see Zane is approaching the podium. Welcome, Zane.
I can figure it out. Pretty mechanically inclined. Just ask my wife. All right. Thank you for having me. Who has the clip here? All right, perfect. All right. So we're here to talk about capital maintenance projects. So I've kind of, over the years, kind of worked on improving this slide deck for everybody here because I know there are kind of new faces. So a little bit about the capital maintenance projects. These funds are really to maintain and improve our existing buildings. These aren't referendum funds for large construction, new construction projects. We're looking at larger maintenance and small remodel projects, potentially large equipment replacement projects. Obviously, this work is usually completed during the summer break. Where do we come up with these projects? We work with schools to determine kind of their wish lists on a yearly basis. We work with our consultants, contractors to kind of roadmap the larger equipment replacements and projects, trying to look to several years ahead. Use maintenance requests and repair cost history. Obviously, a piece of equipment is $5,000 to replace, and we keep putting $3,000 into it every single year. Like, the math makes sense to, just go ahead and switch it out. And then all this kind of gets tracked on our master spreadsheet that we revise and update every year, that we kind of use to plan a couple of years out in advance, kind of looking down the road.
I would just say the wish list might not be the perfect term. Like, these are needs, in most cases here. We're not looking to, do things that somebody just kind of wants. It's something that's fairly necessary.
Yeah, they'll put a lot of things from the different schools on the list that might necessarily make it to the top just due to the priorities. But it's always good to know, what they're looking at and what the schools are looking for. So, how are these projects funded? So we've got our yearly O&M budget, and kind of within that budget is our operations, maintenance and repairs, and then this actual capital maintenance projects budget. So it is part of our yearly budget. We also have our Fund 46, that is kind of our savings account for the Buildings and Grounds Department, which we'll kind of circle back to that at the end a little bit. So, all right, to review some of our completed projects. Over at Prairie View, the two sets of outside doors that come out of the gym both fully got replaced, hardware doors and frames. Brooklyn, we did some updates of cabinets in one of the classrooms. We also replaced a set of exterior doors and hardware down there as well. Over at the middle school, we had an upstairs classroom that used to be, I believe, kind of home ec. It still had a bunch of countertops, it had kitchen hoods and a bunch of things in it. It's been an English classroom, so we kind of came in and cleared out that space to really allow them to use that classroom kind of as they're using it these days. So, still at the middle school, we replaced some snow guards for the metal roofs, and then we replaced both water heaters, one for the kitchen and one for the building. Also at the middle school, it's hard to really take a picture of removing an underground storage tank, but where those vans are sitting, there is now no underground fuel storage tank underneath them anymore. So, here at the high school, we kind of did phase 1 of our roofing work, which was the commons, the auxiliary gym, and then the PAC lobby. You'll kind of see Plan B here in a minute for the rest of the kind of PAC and music wing. Replaced the loading dock lift in the back by the receiving door here. And then we kind of completed some ceiling and LED lighting project in the commons that really has enhanced that space a lot if anybody's been in there since that's been done. So, couple things that we're kind of continuing to work on. There's kind of longer year-round projects. They're kind of the plumbing cross-connection corrections that we're working with our plumbing contractor on. Replacing and upgrading HVAC controllers. We actually got just 2 of them done this week. And then the painting of the lane lines and doing some private shower replacements, that's going to happen during the spring pool shutdown, just because that's when they'll be shut down for maintenance. So those were kind of last year's projects. Take a look at this year's projects. You'll see a lot of exterior doors. Obviously, safety is a huge concern for us. When those doors don't operate and they don't shut, obviously it's an issue. So you'll see more of these on the list, but we have kind of a set of doors here at Netherwood we're looking to replace, and then actually the original switchgear from the 70s in Prairie View. It doesn't look terribly old, but there's a lot of components inside there that are very dated and aren't readily available, and if we ever run into an issue with it, it's going to cause problems to kind of keep that school running. At Brooklyn, we're going to do 2 more sets of exterior doors there. Those are kind of their main doors in and out for their playground, as well as there's a couple smaller rooms that didn't get flooring redone when they did the additions of the cafeteria and stuff down there, so just kind of getting those taken care of. Roam corners, we're kind of going to be doing some exterior landscaping upgrades. We did a little bit with kind of our in-house Ron from our grounds department, really helped out doing a lot of cleanup over there, but the next level we're going to kind of do here is going to involve some contractors and really kind of cleaning some stuff up and just making some changes. You want to know where to put a sidewalk, just let the kids go to school for a week and you're going to see the dead grass where they walk anyway. So just trying to kind of update and keep that looking good.
To some degree, that's a safety issue because if you saw the fencing, it's falling down and it's just seen the end of its life.
Yep, I agree. Over at the middle school, we got some railings that are kind of hidden around back, but they're on the receiving area that just need to be replaced. We've got a decent amount of kind of original building shades as well, especially on the west elevation with the setting sun, and they're not working great, and then people bring in their own blinds, and they're really not legal with the fire department and fire rating, so really want to get them the right equipment so they can teach in their classroom and not be disruption. So we've got the rest of the main PAC and the rest of the music wing roof replacement that'll happen this summer. The plan's to get started right after graduation. We also are looking at doing the back parking lot that's kind of back by receiving, by the greenhouse. That's really the only area that wasn't redone during the referendum about 10 years ago. So we are also looking at resurfacing the running track. We've kind of patched it and recoated it and kind of done as much as we can out of it, and we've just used the life of that track up. So we probably got a good 27 years out of a 20-year track, so we definitely got value out of it. A couple doors back by the auto shop need to be replaced, as well as the water heater in the kitchen. And then these are just some interior doors that get used a lot. We've kind of, the staff here has done everything they can to kind of keep them alive for as long as they can, but it's just time to replace them, make sure they function correctly. And then some of the district-wide stuff is we will continue to work on the cross-connection stuff. I believe after this summer we should be down to 2 buildings, so we're kind of working with the village to slowly take care of those building by building. And I was here a while ago. You did. So we are going to be doing the solar project here through the Fund 46 money. So hopefully yet this month we're working on the first phase, which will be the panels that are located on the Commons and the Augs Gym. We're hoping to have those hopefully active and working yet this spring and April. Once the PAC roof is done, then we'll kind of do phase 2 later in the summer for the panels that go up there. So we're just kind of borrowing the Fund 46 money. We're not using it. We're going to use it for the project, but then the savings we're going to get from the less electrical consumption and saving on utility bills is going to pay ourselves back into that Fund 46 pot. So
There's also some federal money there that we're taking advantage of. That's why we moved it so quickly, is to take advantage of that before it went away.
So these are just some of the upcoming projects. You know, a lot of bigger stuff with roofs and asphalt replacement. You know, that Fund 46 is kind of our insurance policy. Obviously, we're going to try to continue to manage these projects and move them around, and you know, what can we put a little money in to gain a couple more years out of it versus what we just need to replace and kind of move on. So the hope is not to have to really use that Fund 46 money, but it's there in case we do get into a bind and something kind of accelerates up our list that we just aren't totally prepared for.
Obviously, you know, we can chunk off a lot of those first 6 or so, but that, I don't know, the 7th one's a doozy, right? Or 8th one, I'm not counting right there. Basically RCI's roof, the building was opened in 2001, so we're at 25 years at this point and counting. So we know there's an end limit there.
All right, questions for Zane? We'll start with Heather.
Thanks for running us through this. My first question, which I think is this slide, is what didn't make the list. So it seems like that's this.
Yeah, that was just some of the bigger projects. There's smaller stuff at different schools. It would have been a lot of information on one slide.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. And then my second question, and help us along on the school finance 101 or 103, maybe I'm at now. We were just talking about special education and transferring from the general fund. Is this an area where if we had extra funds in the general fund could be transferred to Fund 46?
Absolutely.
Okay, so again, at the risk of being a broken record, like we just spent 287,000 of the 700,000, right? Roughly. So now we have 413,000 left over. And not saying that would all go to
Yep.
capital projects, but that would be money that would be available for things like this.
Yeah, and if we're listing things like that are out there kind of that have become on our radar recently, there is some curricular things that
Could also.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and then, so then my 2 specific questions are on the track, because I know that we've talked about this at length for years, it seems like. So this is just, we have help me about the track, because we've always talked about, do we have enough lanes? What are we doing with it? Like, what is this?
So do you want to do it, or you want?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, this is going to be putting down a new surface. So what's out there, you know, the black latex surface on top of asphalt. So we would be removing that surface. We would be changing the surface we work with Brittany and Ned, our track coach, on kind of what they recommend. I'm not a track guy, so I use people that know it. So it would be a little different surface, but we would be keeping the same dimensions. So it would still stay an 8-lane track. There's a couple of things over, I think, in the pole vault that some of the things have changed for sizes on pads or whatever that we would update. But for the most part, it's going to look the same size-wise with just a new coating on it.
Okay, that's helpful. And just remind me, because I do think if we're spending this money on keeping it the same, that kind of says we're for the next 27 years, hopefully, I mean, that it lasts that long, that we're not really going to do any sort of,
You want to
Sure.
field that
I
one?
would say that what we're doing right now is probably a 10 to 15 year track. We've gotten estimates of up to $500,000 to totally remove everything, redo the asphalt, and then kind of redo the surface on top of it. So
yeah, and I guess that's where I'm going. And again, I'm not pro or con of either way. I'm just trying to understand as a board if, you know, you don't want to spend good money after bad, right? So we're putting 175, and I think that's what we're saying is now that's a 10 to 15 year plan. And if we ever get to the point where we can do something else, that time is then.
yeah, I mean, we're kind of we're spending that money for a 10 to 15 year track in lieu of say $500,000 for a 20 to 25 year track. You know.
Okay.
And I think the other component of this is, right, the FIAD uses that track as well as the 5 big track things that we do each year. So, you know, it feels like a good investment. It's not going all the way to the $500,000, but it's kind of a midline area that will get a good quality track for at least 10 to 15 years.
And then my second question is, maybe my first was a prelude into the importance of private support. But my follow-up question to that is, especially when we're talking about window treatments or flooring, or obviously, like, I don't think somebody's going to donate replacing a roof. It'd be lovely if anybody's out there and wants to donate the RCI roof, we will take it. But maybe it's both on private support and kind of our bidding process. How are we approaching this, the flooring and some other easier things that maybe there are wonderful alumni out there who own companies that would, do these things for less? Are we involving any sort of private support, or are we just going to bid or are we doing it ourselves? To help me understand that piece of it.
I think at this point, because we kind of were told the foundation is not really operational, let's say, we are just going to bid at this point in time. As soon as we have an operational foundation, then I think we should definitely try to figure out a way to partner on these things. And then we, I don't know if sponsorships is an idea or whatever. I think we're open to any of that. We just need to get the projects done.
Mary, did you have any questions?
I do, actually.
Okay, we'll give you the floor.
Toward the end of last year, it may have even been in December, but I'm hoping either Zane or Andy will recall. We talked about solar panels, and we definitely approved a portion of the cost for solar panels. And I'm just wondering, can either of you remind me, was that for the full cost, or was that just a portion of them?
So the answer is sorta. Basically, they're going to repay themselves, right? So there's several $100,000 that we'll get from the federal government. It will take us probably until October, November to get some of that money. Because the second phase is not done until after July 1, we won't get the last portion of that money until the fall of 2027. And then it will be, I'm trying to remember, 12 years, 13 years, something like that, of paying into the fund to reimburse it from the electrical savings that we'll have from those panels to basically reestablish the fund. So today, we've already spent a little bit of money to get panels, and they're actually sitting in the back storage room of the maintenance building. And they'll start doing some construction here in spring break. But then we'll have more expenses, so we'll pay it all out, but then we'll slowly get reimbursed it in probably several different waves. So the idea was that they'll pay for themselves.
What Mary
Understood. Yeah,
what Mary
and
might be remembering is that we technically showed it as 2 separate payments because it's going to be split over 2 different years. So
Right.
The main part of it was going to go during this fiscal year, and then kind of that phase 2 would actually get paid out in next fiscal year. So it's all going to get paid up front. It's just set between 2 separate years.
Were you able to hear that, Mary?
I think so. I think what I heard is that there are 2 separate payments.
Yes.
And Zane, did we approve both payments? Can you remind me?
Yes. Yep,
Yes.
That got approved with the last Fund 46 fund update.
If we didn't buy a portion of the panels for both phases before December 31st, at least have the order in, then we would not have been eligible for the reimbursement from the federal government. So we had to do both at the same time.
Sure. Okay. All right. Great. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't, that I was not overlooking a charge that would be in this calendar year. So I appreciate that that memory check for me.
Anything else, Mary?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, who's next? Caleb.
So I would be, I'm kind of reluctantly asking this question, but I want to ask it for myself and my Brooklyn neighbors and my spouse and my kids. The chiller replacement that's on the upcoming projects list. Is the chiller the piece of machinery that at times makes an awful high-pitched noise that you can hear with your windows closed that wakes you up at night when you live close to the elementary school? Because
That's very
no,
specific.
I'm asking for a neighbor, yes, a friend and a neighbor and a wife and kids and myself. I'm just curious because that noise comes and goes, and I keep saying I think it's a piece of equipment on the elementary school. I don't know if that's it or not, so that's my question. Is that it?
It's usually not the chiller. 99% of the time, it's an exhaust fan that is a piece of HVAC piece of equipment that is on the roof, but usually that's a belt or a bearing that has gone wrong, and that's kind of the way it tells us that it's time to repair it.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, that always seems to happen on a Friday night or a Saturday when nobody's really around. So, but yeah, we can,
Okay, that's good because I was concerned that it's an upcoming project and it was going to be something that we'd all have to live with, but it doesn't sound like that. So, but that was a legitimately serious question though, because it's been an ongoing point of discussion, and I'm on the school board, and so people ask me, right, what is that noise? What's going on? Is the district going to fix it? So that's why I wanted to ask that question, just so I could go back and tell people that it's on there, but it's not that. So I have my answer. Thank you.
If you do have that, well, give us a call. There used to be somebody that worked at the university bookstore that would call me occasionally, and then we would go fix it. So if you can be our person, we want to know that. We want to be good neighbors.
I feel terrible, like on a Friday night saying, I'm going to call Andy and come, be that person.
yeah. No, I agree. Call Andy.
Then Andy calls Katie.
Yeah, but also, as Eddie said, don't hesitate to reach out because we find out about issues like that on the weekends from community members. So.
And that school is one of the closest schools to the neighborhood that we have, so.
Heather,
Do we have a motion yet? Shall I
No.
I would like to put a motion on the
you can
floor.
put a motion on the table here.
I'd like to make the motion to approve action item C2, the approval of the 26-27 capital maintenance projects.
Motion by Heather, is there a second? Second by Leslie. Any further discussion? I do have a question, Zane. Minor thing, but you mentioned the plumbing cross connector items, and you mentioned something about the village. Could you say more about what that means for the village?
It's really part of the plumbing code of just what's required for safety reasons. They don't want anything potentially from a drain or a hose or whatever potentially backing up into the drinking water and contaminating the drinking water. So there's heights of pipe that things need to be for toilets or.
Okay, so it's just meeting a village code.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct. It's always been there, not to get anybody in trouble at the village. It wasn't always kind of enforced. The state has kind of started pushing on it. So we had to go through and verify really every single plumbing fixture kind of in the district. What was legal, what was not legal. Some things are just a quarter-inch off, but technically they're not legal. So it would have been a big bill to knock it all off. So we're kind of taking it section by section, working with those.
Okay, great.
As the village has said, as long as we're making progress on it, they're good.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, Katie, please call the roll.
Ms. Garrison? Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuda?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Zane. Thank you. All right, next up we have policy 611, financial. This is coming to us from policy, I believe. Gina, are you leading, or Mary? Mary, can you lead this one?
I am happy. The recommendation for approval of policy 611 financials is coming from policy. But I actually am going to turn it over to Andy. I think, Andy, do you want to talk through the modifications to the policy?
I will try my best. Yeah, a lot of this was trying to just clean up kind of the policy a little bit. The biggest changes, honestly, were taking the definitions kind of toward the end and moving them into administrative guidelines. So I'm going to kind of start there and then work backwards. So we did that intentionally because DPI kind of tweaks these fund definitions occasionally. And by putting in administrative guidelines, we can inform you, but not have to go through the whole committee process of changing it to reflect what DPI is saying. So that's kind of the last piece of it. And then I'll go start with the front here. Really what we were trying to do was kind of clean it up a little bit, trying to identify things that we're saying, just basically clean up some definitions, make them a little bit more clear. The general fund, we did try to make that so that people understood that the special education kind of fund works in conjunction with the general fund when we're looking at fund balance percentages, as well as processes related to approving kind of a deficit budget that doesn't use unassigned fund balances. So we haven't approved a budget this evening with the staffing, but we will ask you for that by June, just so that we have a budget in place before we start the year. So, if we were in the same position as we are this evening, that would actually take a 2/3 vote to have basically a approval of a budget that would use unassigned fund balance. So we're just trying to kind of make that a little bit more clear in all of this, as well as talking about the timing of our audit coming to you. In the past, I think it said in December. Now we said before December. Now we say by the end of December, simply because December is the month that the auditors have been coming to us. Again, talking about Fund 27 and how that works conjunction. Another significant thing is we used to have a floor of 10% being the fund balance percentage that we wanted. We were recommending bringing that up to 15%. We're in the 20s right now, so we're a ways away from that. And it felt like an important thing to kind of bring that up a little bit, since we are, and I know the board's probably tired of me talking about this, but we are in a situation where the state views us as a more wealthy district from a per student equalized assessed value. And all that means is that we're less reliant on state aid and more reliant on property taxes. And because of that, we get less money throughout the year and more money toward the second part of the year. And so that does have an impact on our cash flow. So by raising that up to 15%, we have more cash flow to get through the year, since we need more cash flow to get through the year. So just making that floor a little bit higher in that regard. And for the most part, there's Andy's favorite saying, the use of fund balance for recurring costs is discouraged. We kind of brought that up a little bit, just because that's an important thing to keep in mind. And then defining the deficit budget a little bit more in a better way, as well as adding the paragraph that talks about as soon as we would know that we think we're going to be using unassigned fund balance, that the superintendent would let the Board of Education know that, so that there's no surprises at the end of the year. And if there's anything that we can do to kind of change that at that point in time, we would do that. Keeping in mind there's a full process in place before we adopt a budget, but the question really was, what do we do during the school year if things were to pop up and we have to identify, or we have to do something that would require us to use unassigned fund balance? We thought it was an important safety precaution to put that in there, that we have a duty to let you folks know that that could happen. I think I've covered everything, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to respond to them as best I can.
Questions from board members? Bless you. All right, well done. This has been through policy, so parliamentarian, we don't need a second. We just need a well, Mary, I think, made the motion, so we are ready to do the vote. Katie?
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. We have a new policy 611. There you go, Andy. New financial policy.
I will note that the first time this policy came to the board was 1999, which was my first year, and here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Went from 10% to 15% fund balance. Yep. Okay. All right. Next up, we have our HRA benefit for eligible employees. Gina, leading us in this one.
I think it's
This
a
is also
separate
come
slide
from
deck.
policy, and so policy is recommending approval of the proposed changes to retirement, but I would ask Gina to present the information.
Okay, we have two motions coming from policy tonight, and I will talk about those at the end. But just to ground us in where we are, is the board has already approved the HRA for the non-legacy employees. So tonight we are looking for the board to accept the policy committee's recommendation to approve the HRA benefit for legacy employees and administrators. And so this is, okay. I will share it with Katie. All right, and it is in the packet, so I'll just go through, let me do it on my computer. So we always ground ourselves in the mission and the values, and one of our goals that the board approved for the 23-26 school years is to retain and recruit high-quality, collaborative, and diverse staff. And so I always, when we talk about retention and recruitment of staff, I always want to thank the community for the 2022 operational referendum, as well as the ones prior to that. But that is the referendum that really made this benefit possible. So I don't know where we would be without the community support of our staff. And so just to ground everyone, a reminder of what the post-retirement benefit purpose is it's to provide a bridge to Medicare. And we talked about that last time. For those employees that choose to retire before they are eligible for Medicare, which right now by federal law is usually age 65, can be a little bit earlier if you have a disability. But that is the goal, is that if you choose to retire before Medicare eligibility, to provide some funding for you to buy health care in that retirement. So what is the current benefit for our legacy employees? And this benefit predates me. And so at the time, in around July 1 of 2011, and that was right on the wake of Act 10, if people remember that, that the board at the time took the group of people that had at least 10 years of service as of that date and put them in a group. And I will call them the legacy employees. So it is a finite group of people that we're talking about. It's about 50 people. As you can imagine, it gets smaller each year as people retire. And so how it works, and this is a simplification, but essentially when those legacy folks retire, then the board pays 90% of the insurance premium in place at the time, and that is frozen at that amount for up to 4 years, or Medicare, whichever comes first. And so if you were to retire at the end of this school year, just trying to make the math really simple, let's say you were on a family plan and the board contribution was $20,000 to the insurance, and you were 59, then 59 plus 4 is 63. Most people aren't eligible for Medicare yet, so the board would pay $20,000 for 4 years. And so the employee absorbs the increase to the health insurance. So what's helpful for what we're proposing is that when an employee retires, is we know the amount that the board will contribute to the premium at the time they retire, because that amount is frozen. So that becomes important in a moment. So for administrators, it works the same way. Essentially, it's just that for administrators, the benefit is 8 years instead of the 4. And retirement does mean that you collect your WRS annuity. So that's the retention component, is that we don't want people to go to a neighboring school district, that it's a good faith retirement and they're getting their annuity. So the challenge that we have with the legacy benefit, and this is where the idea came from, is that because right now the board pays 90% of the district plan, is that you have to be on the district's insurance in order to take advantage of that benefit. And what I've been hearing more and more from retirees is that the district's plan doesn't work for them, because as we become centralized in an HMO network, it works great if you stay around Dane County, but we do have retirees that want to live in different parts of the country or different parts of the state. And so from my perspective is that this is a wonderful benefit that is provided to a select group of retirees, and it's a significant amount of money. And so from my lens, it doesn't make sense for the board to keep investing in this when people come back and say, but now I've moved to Minocqua, or I've moved to Florida to care for my parents, or I moved to Minneapolis to be with my children who go to school there. And so this plan isn't working if you're outside of Dane County. I will say with GHC, it's a little bit better as a national network, but it depends on where you live. So we wanted to do something for flexibility. It also can benefit the district if people aren't on our plan, because when you are in those networks outside of Dane County, is the reimbursement rate is high from GHC perspective. So we do, we can see that in increased premiums. And so it's really helpful for us if people go and buy care where they are, that's more convenient for them and less expensive for us. So what are we proposing? And we talked about what an HRA is last time, so I won't spend too much time on that unless you have questions. But this is a key difference from what we talked about last time, is when we went out and talked to the legacy benefit employees, and we received their feedback. And the OEA has done a wonderful job in getting their feedback as well, which we talked about at policy committee. And they felt very strongly as a group that the current benefit is age 55. And that was overwhelming feedback that we received, is that they wanted to keep the retirement age at 55. So I will tell you that legacy employees are not retiring at age 55, but I heard them very clearly that because that current benefit was 55, that they wanted to maintain that at 55. And so this is a group of employees now that have been with us at least 25 years, if not more, to be a part of that group. And so, one of the things we pride ourselves upon is collaboration and listening to staff feedback. And so we talked about this extensively at the policy committee. And so policy committee did approve the benefit, and the recommendation to you tonight is to approve the retirement eligibility and keep that at age 55. So from my HR lens, I didn't want to, again, have two different groups of people. So I feel comfortable financially of saying, okay, we listened to you, we will change it back to age 55 for everybody, and just keep watching that and reevaluate. So that would be the ask of the board tonight. Everything else stays the same. The difference with the HRA benefit folks is that we would propose that it is cost neutral from a district perspective. And I have some examples here that I won't go into all of them in the interest of time. But just for example, I will take one example of Pat. So remember how I said when Pat retires, the board contribution is frozen. So we know what the district would be spending on Pat for the next 4 years. So rather than contribute to our insurance and our premium, we would take that same amount of money and put it into an HRA. And then Pat could use that money to stay on our plan or to buy a plan that works better for Pat and their family. So that's how it's different from the HRA for non-legacy folks. So essentially from a district perspective, we would spend the same amount of money. The one caveat I have to that is we have a few folks that are on a single plan. And so right now, so if you look at Caroline, if we were to do the cost neutral standpoint of what we spend per month on a single plan for Caroline and put it in an HRA, it would be $38,400. And so our proposal right now would be, instead of the $38,400, that we would put the $40,000 in. because that's what the non-legacy group would get. And it just didn't feel right that somebody who had fewer years of service would get more money. Now, as our insurance rates increase, I anticipate even for next year that this will just be a one-year issue. And there's 5 folks that fall into that category, but only one of whom is retiring this year. Administrator benefit would be similar, as you take the amount of money that we would pay when an administrator retires and put that in an HRA. So it would work the same way. The dollar amount is higher because it's 8 years instead of the 4. So I'm happy to take questions. I know I went through that quickly, but we've talked about this several times. I put the proposed motions up here, and this is what the policy committee had approved, so you wouldn't need a second. That essentially we're asking that the board approve moving to a health reimbursement arrangement to be paid out over 4 years as presented for legacy employees and 8 years for administrators in the equivalent amount of the administrator benefit, the legacy benefit, or the non-legacy benefit of $40,000, whichever is greater. And that's to capture the single plan people. And then the second part of that is that the minimum age for all HR benefits would be age 55, including the non-legacy employees. So with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Anna, go ahead.
Thank you for the information. The question revolves around the retirement age. So is there a cost impact to the 55 versus 57 age that we're talking about? I know we had already approved the 57 years old. And now if we go back to the 55, is there a cost impact associated with that?
So it's not a direct dollar for dollar cost, because if they retire at 55, they get the 4 years, right? If they retire at 57, they get the 4 years. It's more of, for accounting standards, we have to be funded from an actuarial standpoint. So when you go to age 55, you have to assume that everybody could go at age 55 and be prepared for that. So I'm not overly worried about that because people aren't going at 55. So I feel like it's important to respond to the staff feedback and tell them that they've been heard, and at the same time to keep tracking that data and then see, is that making an impact in the benefit that we're offering, and potentially move there later if the data is showing that. But I'm really hearing the discomfort from staff that they want the option of going at 55. So Mr. Wineland and I feel comfortable with that. I also don't want a big wave of retirements this year, right, to get in 55. So, and I would say it's not that you can't retire, you can always retire. It's just that, when are you eligible for the benefit?
Other questions? Caleb, go ahead.
It's not a question. It's just, I wanted to just say something that I said at the policy meeting last week, I think. And just, I'll be very brief. The nice thing, this is a nice thing because, and I said this at the meeting, we live in an age where we're often talking about the reduction of benefits. And this is actually a really positive benefit that we can offer to people to workers in the district. And it's not often that we get to do that. And I was excited to be able to do that in policy, and hopefully I'll be excited when we can do that as the board, because it's a very uncommon thing. Most discussions, and anybody in education knows this, the discussions are often about a reduction of benefits, not being able to provide a benefit. And so I just wanted to say that again because I think it's worth saying. Thanks.
My comment, I very much appreciate that. The goal of this benefit is to keep our retention rates very strong. We have most years we're either the highest retention rate or the second highest retention rate. And I think you all know the high cost of turnover. And so also I've had very little ability to recruit based on our retirement benefit because it's really inadequate compared to the schools that we recruit from. And so I'm very grateful to the board and the community because I'm hoping that Because we are a destination district, we often have people who have a lot of experience that are looking to come here. But because of that, they are thinking about retirement. And so I think that this will, I hope, make a big impact on our ability to recruit experienced teachers from other districts. But I also make the commitment that I know that it is expensive, right? And so if it's not working, then I make the commitment that we come back to the board and look at different options once we have several years of data. So I just wanted to say thank you to you and the community.
Yeah, maybe I'd look at it as an investment, right? I mean, for all the good things you mentioned, and Caleb said I won't repeat, and I am also excited that we're able to offer this. And on a second small note, the material you all put together for this is fantastic, right? All the way from kind of the why behind it, all the way through the next steps timeline at the end of it. It just really helps consume and understand for folks that are able to read, consume, and follow that along. So thanks for that. Nice job to everybody.
Yeah, I just would echo what Nathan said about the material. I wasn't able to attend all of the policy committee meetings where this was discussed, but really clearly laid out, and loved the examples and the different comparisons. So thanks for all the hard work over a long period of time. So if there are not any other questions or comments, we'll go to roll call. Katie.
Dr. Lakuta? Is this two motions?
Oh,
So is it
okay.
two motions from policy?
So okay, we'll clarify. So these are two motions. So we'll vote on the first motion here, which is to approve moving to a health reimbursement arrangement to be paid out over 4 years as presented for legacy employees and 8 years for administrators in the equivalent amount of the administrator benefit, the legacy benefit, or the non-legacy benefit of $40,000, whichever is greater. All right, back to you, Katie, for roll call.
All right, Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak? Yes. Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison? Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. All right, so I'll restate the second motion, which is the board approve that the minimum age for all HRA benefits will be age 55, including the non-legacy employees. Katie?
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison? Mr. Hensel? Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Both motions carry, so we now have a new HRA benefit. Thank you all for that. All right, next up, we have committee or discussion items, committee reports. We'll start with vision steering. Anna.
Thank you, Troy. Vision Steering met this evening before the board meeting, and our discussion was about a non-instrumentality charter school with potentially one of our partners, and it was a very interesting meeting, and I look forward to learning more about that. Our next meeting is currently not scheduled we don't have a next meeting scheduled at this time.
Thanks, Anna. Mary, can you give the report for policy?
Our last meeting was on the 25th of February, and we discussed 611 financials, and we discussed the retirement benefits. And our next meeting is on the 18th of March at 5:30 in the district office, and the topics, the agenda is to be determined.
Thanks, Mary. All right, next up we have our informational items. Turn it over to you, Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you. I just want to make a connection between our Portrait of a Graduate and the presentation that you heard earlier tonight from our students who attended the MSAN conference in November. You can clearly see how our Portrait of a Graduate vision is alive and well in the students who presented here. And I think that counts for the teaching and learning update too, is that the more opportunities we give students to go out and broaden their perspectives and make connections with others, I think the better we will be aligned to our Portrait of a Graduate and to all that we're trying to accomplish in the world of teaching and learning. I think the board has also done an excellent job tonight talking about federal and state legislative updates and how much what happens at the state level impacts us. For example, the special education reimbursement rate and the fact that it won't be anywhere near what the legislature had said it would be, and even that is inadequate when you look at the broader picture. Now we'll get into some district highlights because there are some fun things to talk about. And one of the fun things is always food, because National School Breakfast Week, look at this, fresh homemade omelets, overnight oat cups, sunshine sandwiches, and fruit are some of the healthy foods on the menu for National School Breakfast Week. These are really fantastic options, so hats off to our OSD school nutrition team. They're doing a wonderful job. And then, speaking of food, the team also celebrated the recent National Chili Day with some homemade chili. So they prepared chili from scratch using fresh local beef from Greenfield Farm in Blanchardville. Another example of how our school nutrition program is really focusing in on healthy options. So stay tuned for more exciting updates from the school nutrition program. They've got a lot of good stuff up their sleeves. In the celebration of National Art Month, our students from K-6 schools have shared special art displays within the community. If you've been in many of our community businesses, you've probably seen this because our work is on display in Kickback Cafe, Firefly Coffee House, and the Oregon Public Library. So make sure to stop, check out the creativity of our amazing artists, and many thanks to the art educators who do all that they do and manage to also celebrate art in our schools. And then Netherwood Knoll students, Natalie, Blake, and Graham, are being chosen to move on to the National State Art Show in the National Youth Art Gallery Month. Wow. Their artwork is currently on display at Easttown Mall in Madison. So please show your support by checking out all the amazing student talent in Wisconsin during mall hours. And there's going to be a reception to follow the whole thing on Friday, March 27th. And then Brooklyn did some learning about maple syrup. So second graders at Brooklyn Elementary recently took a field trip to Anderson Park, right here in Oregon, to learn how maple syrup is made and see the process in action. In addition, you can see how sap becomes syrup. Students toured the trails, discussed the native prairie plants, and learned about some of the creatures living in the area. So thanks to our second grade educators and the Anderson Park Friends for this fantastic experience. It's a really great example of our district value of strong family and community partnerships. And then RCI has Ned on a sled. Mrs. Gentert's 6th grade science students at Rome Corners wrapped up their engineering with an exciting Ned on the Sled challenge. Students were tasked with designing a sled that was both fast and safe for Ned, a Beanie Baby, and the special package, the Lego blocks he was delivering. Working within a set budget and specific building requirements, teams also created a custom logo for their sleds. And the final test, a thrilling 10-foot ramp run. A huge congratulations to all of our creative engineers, and special thanks to our amazing community members whose generous Beanie Baby donation allowed our winners to take home their very own Neds. So congratulations to the OSD, 5th and 6th grade vocalists on a fantastic concert. Your voices spread a lot of joy and we love hearing you sing. And then our 7th and 8th grade band students at Oregon Middle School recently showcased their learning with an outstanding performance in the Oregon PAC. The program featured an impressive variety of music, including selections from the Civil War era, contemporary pieces with electronic background tracks, marches, jazz, and cultural music from around the world. Students also demonstrated their communication skills by introducing their pieces in both English and Spanish. It was truly a wonderful display of their growth and musicianship. A huge shout out to our mystery conductor, student teacher Trevor Malaborski from the University of Wisconsin-Madison for leading the performance. And then check out our next podcast. You can find all of the podcast episodes at OregonST.org/podcast. We had a really fun episode that showcased our boys' swim team. A very inspiring group of young men. So it would be wonderful to have people listen to them share about their experiences. And that wraps it up.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll go around the room for checkout. Anyone, anything for checkout? All right, just a reminder that we are not meeting in 2 weeks. The second weekend or the second meeting in March will not happen, but we'll come back together in April. With that, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session for the purposes of discussions regarding negotiating the SRO agreement for the 2026-2028 school years pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851E. Do I have such motion? Motion by Leslie. Is there a second? Second by Caleb. Katie, please call the roll.
Just so you know, Mary did drop off.
Oh.
She's no longer with us. Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel? Yes. Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. We are now in closed session. We will take a 5-minute recess and reconvene in the conference room.